Hi, this is Sam Black with my first draft with Modern Masters 2015. Um, I've opened Ant Queen, which I think is a really top tier bomb in this set because the removal is so bad at dealing with it. None of the common removal actually kills it, except for like Arrest deals with it, but Narcolepsy doesn't, and all the other removal just kills small guys. So I think Ant Queen is a really clear pick here. Burst Lightning and Sunlance, Evolving Wilds, Basilica are all very good cards, so is Kozilek's Predator. There are plenty of cards I'd be happy to have here, but Ant Queen is just really far above the other stuff. And plays perfectly with Wildfire. I think Wildfire is another top tier bomb. It takes a bit of setup, but it's one of the few sweepers in the format, and it's just not that difficult, especially when I already have a 5-mana 5/5 in my deck, to set up a situation where my opponent loses everything and I keep enough to win with Wildfire. It plays really well with the ramp that's in the set and the built-in card advantage from the Karuz. If Wildfire weren't here, I'd be taking Vengeful Rebirth. It's nice that this pack and the previous pack had Sphere of the Suns, and this also has Rampant Growth and Vengeful Rebirth, so it's reasonably likely that I'm going to table some ways to ramp into Wildfire, and it's really best if you can play it before turn 6. So that's going to be my pick here, and I'm off to a very good start for what I'd like to be doing, or just in the format in general. This is an interesting pick. The obvious cards that jump out at me are the uncommons. Everflowing Chalice is great for ramping into Wildfire and then still having mana left over to do other stuff. Oblivion Ring is one of the best removal spells in the format, and Stormblood Berserker is a good card that's in my colors. Going beyond that, there's also like Alloy Mirror, I guess, but I think that's a worse ramp spell in a Wildfire deck than Everflowing Chalice. Because red and green are good at playing other colors, I don't consider taking Oblivion Ring to be like a major departure from the cards that I already have, or a particularly awkward card to expect to include in my Ant Queen Wildfire deck. And I think that Everflowing Chalice is easier to replace. There are a lot of 2-mana accelerators. Kicked Everflowing Chalice is a unique effect, but also these red-green X decks are less likely to want colorless mana than colored mana. So my extra mana my non-land mana sources would generally prefer to be colored cards that give me colored mana. Here, there are a lot of very reasonable picks. Gorehorn Minotaurs is another 5/5 that lives through Wildfire, which is really awesome. Spike Shot Elder is an on-color rare that is a very powerful card, but it works best with types of cards that I'm not going to want to be playing, like Equipment. Simic Growth Chamber is, I really like having bounce lands in my multicolor decks and in my Wildfire decks, so it's a strong consideration. Aquastrand Spider is like one of the better, cheaper guys, but it's mostly filler in this kind of deck. And Artisan of Kozilek is another great bomb to be accelerating into. The problem with Artisan of Kozilek is that it plays badly with Wildfire. I kind of ran out of time and made a quick pick there and took the Growth Chamber. I think it's safest. I'm just worried that I'll stop myself from getting to 9 mana with the Wildfire. And I think Gorehorn Minotaurs is more replaceable. I expect, especially in these early drafts, to have a wealth of playables, and so I think prioritizing the bounce lands is going to be a good idea. Pelakka Worm is outstanding. Just a great card, totally on plan with make a bunch of mana and big guys. If it weren't here, I'd be looking at Chalice, Aether Snipe, and Wayfarer's Bauble, but I think it's a clear pick, and it's also a good signal on big mana green being open. 5th pick is very late for Pelakka Worm in my estimation. Evolving Wilds, I take over almost everything once I'm at least 3 colors. Sphere of the Suns, I think I can get later. I've seen several of them, and I don't want too many. Ideally, I might not even be playing any, although Wildfire pushes me toward wanting to play them. Necrogenesis is a great card, but it's another color, and I'd rather have fixing before moving into other colors. And like I said with the Growth Chamber, I think that prioritizing lands is going to be a safe thing to do in this draft. This, to me, is a pretty easy Golgari Rot farm. Karplusan Strider seems like a fine creature that I wouldn't mind putting in my deck, potentially. It's not much of a sideboard card. Its ability is not particularly substantial. It is slightly better if your opponent's blue and black, but this is a very mediocre card. Bone Splinters can be great, and I do have Ant to sacrifice. And I guess this is a hard removal spell that I didn't acknowledge at common when talking about how hard it is to kill Ant Queen. I do prioritize that, but Rot Farm is, for the reasons I've stated in previous picks, my clear choice here. Repeal is another card that would deserve mention if I were not in this spot. Again, actually this pick is harder. So I could take Selesnya Sanctuary, and would like to, but I am in pack 1 and already have 2 bounce lands, so the pressure to get more of them is a little alleviated. Kozilek's Predator is definitely good when I'm doing big stuff, but I think it's not necessary. It's just solid. And Combust is actually an awesome sideboard card, and I think having awesome sideboard cards is really important. I'm going to take this Selesnya Sanctuary here. I just think it's safest to go that way, but I think Combust... there's a good chance that I'll end up regretting not taking Combust there. Given that I have 3 bounce lands and I'm not really looking to play more than 5, and that I'm looking to not worry about my color commitments now that I have so many non-basic lands that fix my mana, Evolving Wilds over a bounce land is an easy choice for me here, especially since the bounce land doesn't provide either of what I expect to be my primary colors, and I'm going to play so many non-basic lands that I'm not going to have a lot of options on what colors of mana my lands give me, which means that I might be low on red and green mana if I prioritize double off-color bounce lands. Remand is the best card here. I may or may not play it depending on how much blue I end up with, but it will be great against me. Apostle's Blessing would be reasonable, but I think Remand is better. I'm going to take Everflowing Chalice. These other cards wouldn't really make my deck, though Gutshot is a powerful sideboard card. But as my lands are looking to do a great job of fixing my mana, there's a good chance that I can use Everflowing Chalice to usefully ramp into my bombs. None of these cards are really good for me. Graph Mage, I think, is... I'm going to take the Instill Infection. I think it's the card I'm most likely to want to sideboard in, and I think Graph Mage, Wings of Veil, and Thrive are all cards that go in the blue-green Graph deck, and only that deck. And so I can't usefully hate a card by taking something for that archetype, because whoever's that archetype is going to get something out of that pack either way. Death Denied, these late picks were whatever. Otherworldly Journey is pretty good with Block a Worm. Vines of Vastwood is good at saving my big important creatures. Death Denied is a difficult splash. It's only good in the late game, and I would never want more than one of it. But it is a reasonable thing to pick up for particularly grindy mirrors. This pick is a super easy Muldrifter. My mana on casting Muldrifter, if I play a single island, I already have 4 sources, which is enough to play Muldrifter. I expect to have more than that by the end of this draft, and it's just the best. The card advantage is particularly important when I'm in the wildfire business, and none of these other cards are cards that I feel like I absolutely have to take. This pick is actually interesting. Now that I have Everflowing Chalice and all these bounce lands, Artisan of Kozilek definitely appeals. I'm also a great deck for Narcolepsy. I need cheap removal and don't have a lot of it. The Sphere of the Suns didn't table, which means that if I want them, I'm going to have to prioritize them. Kozilek's Predator is, another good way to ramp into this stuff. And I actually really like Moonlit Strider. I think it's a great card. It's particularly good, if I wildfire, it lets me save a guy. If I just have it out and then play a bomb, it stops my opponent from dealing with it. And if I end up with a Nameless Inversion or some other stuff to Soul Shift, then it just gives extra value on top of that. Mirran Crusader's the most powerful card in the pack, but 2 off plan. I'm going to take Artisan of Kozilek as the least replaceable card, but it could easily be wrong to take it over one of these commons. This is probably going to be Sunlance. I really like having cheap removal, and I don't have any yet. I haven't been terribly impressed with Necroskitter in this format. Grudian is very slow. It can take over games, but it's also double black. And in this deck it's good, like, if and only if I also have Ant Queen, and I'm not really looking to find ways to win if I have Ant Queen. I imagine that some people might take Fiery Fall here, since I'm lots of colors and they see Fix plus removal as a good option. I think this card is too clunky to prioritize. If I end up with one, I'm likely to play it, but I don't want to have multiples. It just slows things down too much. I don't really have synergies outside of Everflowing Chalice for Grim Affliction. Both of these kill small creatures, but Sunlance does it much more efficiently. Wow, this pack is very interesting. Really, it's just, you know, these are all powerful cards. The pick here for me is clearly between Spread the Sickness and Nameless Inversion. Spread the Sickness gives me hard removal, which, again, this format's not great at, but I do already have Oblivion Ring, but I do like having something that kills big guys to clean up after Wildfire. On the other hand, I've already mentioned that I really like Moonlit Strider, and Nameless Inversion gives me the best thing to Soul Shift if I end up wanting a small Soul Shift package, and it also gives me cheap removal when I already have powerful late game. So I'm going to take the Nameless Inversion here, though I think Spread the Sickness is defensible, especially if you don't have my unnatural love for Moonlit Strider. I think my mana is good enough that I can actually pass on Evolving Wilds here, which is not something I generally look to do, but getting a second Nameless Inversion will just make... I think that other people don't like Moonlit Strider as much as I do, and so the one that I saw I think is reasonably likely to table, and I'm very excited to have that and put it in my deck if I have 2 Nameless Inversions that I can get back with it. This gives, basically having 2 Nameless Inversions gives me great instant speed, cheap removal to get me to my late game powerful stuff, while also enabling a Soul Shift package that could be fairly powerful. Speaking of a spirit package, we have Devouring Greed and Waxmane Baku as powerful spirit payoffs. I'm not going to take them because I'm not planning on being dedicated spirits, and these aren't good if you're just a little spirits. But it is good to see them here in terms of my odds of tabling the spirit stuff that I do want. The pick to me here is between Plagued Ursulka, which will also work well with the spirit stuff and, you know, is great against certain decks like Double Strike, and Alloy Mirror, which helps with fixing and ramp. I like Alloy Mirror because it gives you that ramp and fixing without being a space in your deck that's purely dedicated to mana. Like, it can just function as a 2/2 creature. So that's why I went here. This pick, I think, is a reasonably clear Skargan Firebird. It's just a powerful late game card in a pack that doesn't really have a lot for me. This is between Electrolyze and Scuttling Death. I would like to have Scuttling Death for the Soul Shift package that I'm imagining having the ability to come together, but Electrolyze is way too good to pass. Getting random late pick Electrolyzes is a lot of the payoff to being this kind of deck where I can just play whatever gold cards other people aren't taking. And this is, you know, another awesome removal spell to get me to my good late game. Here I have a choice between a double off-color bounce land and a Lore Scale Codal. I think this is a reasonably close pick. I haven't picked up any other bounce lands this pack, so I'm more inclined to take this than I was in pack 1. However, what I said about double off-color is still true. I'm going to take Lore Scale Codal here because I like that it is a creature that can easily get big enough to live through Wildfire. This is between Dragon Soul Knight, Dread Drone, and Cathodian. Cathodian is easy to cast and gives me a reasonable blocker, but Dragon Soul Knight is only slightly harder to cast, and can potentially just take over a late game. And I think both of them block. I don't think this blocks that much worse. I think Dragon Soul Knight's the better card for my deck, given how deeply committed to 5 color I already am. If I were a deck that might be 4 color, I might take the Cathodian, but I'm solidly 5. I think Repeal is going to offer me more than this Drooling Grudian would, given my lack of things to sacrifice to the Grudian. Repeal is a card that may or may not make my main deck, but is really great against some decks. I could see Death Knight here, but I'm actually going to take Kami of Ancient Law. If my opponent has enchantment-based removal, I'll be really happy to have it. And while I didn't table that one Moonlit Strider, I'm still going to take them very aggressively next pack. This is interesting. I can get a free Grudian or a free Death Knight. I think I want the free Death Knight. No, I'm happy to table Plagued Rusalka. I already have an Otherworldly Journey. Shovel's a good sideboard card. I'm pretty happy with where my deck's at right now. Incidentally, I have plenty of playables, good mana, good curve. Because well, partially informed by the fact that I don't have any Soul Shift yet, so Nameless Inversion isn't higher value, and even if I do get some, I'm likely to have a Nameless Inversion I can get back anyway. I'm going to take the bomb in this pack, which is Selesnya Guildmage. Easily turns extra mana into winning a game, gives me an early play that my opponent has to deal with. Really just perfect card here. And an easy pick. Wow. I would not fault someone for taking Arrest because it deals with big guys and I'm good at dealing with little guys, but I'm going to take another Nameless Inversion. I don't like Arrest's vulnerability to things like bouncing the arrested creature, Kami of Ancient Law, Moonlit Strider, Apostle's Blessing. I just feel like this is a card that can be answered a little too easily for my taste. And again, still looking at Soul Shift as a reason to take the Nameless Inversion. With 3 of them, I'll take Moonlit Strider over almost anything. I understand there's only 1 pack left and I might not see one, but again, the floor on Nameless Inversion is it's still great. I'm going to take Niv Mizzet. I think it's a respectable bomb. I think I can be able to cast it. Other cards are Conclave Phalanx is actually, I think, a reasonable, just defensive card in a deck like this. And again, I wouldn't hate having a Fiery Fall, but Niv Mizzet is... again, most of the things that deal with creatures that have 4 or more toughness leave them on the board, and Niv Mizzet's not a card you want to leave on the board. So he's actually pretty hard to deal with in this format, and is obviously extremely capable of taking over a game. My mana is, at this point, getting to be a bit of a concern. I do want to prioritize just a little bit more fix, but I expect to be able to make things work. Well, this is certainly between Boilerworks and Sphere of the Suns, and I'm going to take the Boilerworks. I'm not on track to have more than the 5 bounce lands that I ideally want. This is great for casting my Niv Mizzet, and I don't really like Sphere of the Suns. I just play it if I have to. Moonlit Strider. Plexcaster Frogling is totally respectable, but I think in this deck where I don't have any particular synergies for it, and it's kind of hard to cast, it's not really that much better than a Cathodian. Wayfarer's Bauble is a card I'd be happy to have. It fixes for any color and everything, but I've already talked at length and drafted toward talked at length about Moonlit Strider and drafted toward it being great, and I'm certainly not going to pass it when I have the option to take it over a card that's not totally essential. Etched Oracle is Etched Oracle. This is going to be super easy for me to cast, fills in a spot on my curve that I don't have a ton of, even if you view it as a 5-drop. it's outstanding in every possible way. If it weren't here, I'd obviously take Combust, but Magic Oracle's really top shelf for my deck. This is interesting. I could actually see taking Thief of Hope, given that I have 5 cards to get back with it, and that I can get it back with Moonlit Strider. And this is a double off-color bounce land that I'm not super looking for more of. Obviously, Lore Scale Codal is also respectable. I'm gonna go Thief of Hope. It's a little questionable, but it's the pick I'm making, I think. Not high confidence that this pick is right. It could really easily be any of the other cards. Moonlit Strider over Flash Freeze. Really happy to see this, especially helps justify this Thief of Hope I just took. Interestingly, Wings of Velasvel is another card I can Soul Shift, but not a card that's super great in my deck outside of that. The obvious thing to look at is Tezzeret's Gambit, as it's just, you know, a control card that, like, I could just put it in my deck and draw 2 cards. But I'll take it. I don't think I'm going to play it. I think it's too slow and clunky, but I think I will want it in some matchups. I'm going to take a Rampant Growth here. I'm likely to find out that my mana needs it. And I don't really need this other stuff. Interesting how open the blue-green Graft deck is, but that's not where I am, and that's fine. Root Canal is also a very powerful card, but I think Rampant Growth is more essential. I think I have plenty of finishers. Here, I'm actually going to take the Conclave Phalanx. I think it is likely that I'm going to want this 2/4 blocker that gains me life, and I already have a Repeal and don't really care about the other cards. I already have all this stuff in my sideboard. I'm going to take the Otherworldly Journey, I guess, but it's all whatever. I'm going to take Expedition Map in case I decide I need it for my mana. It can find the correct bounce land, which is pretty nice. Really happy to get a free plummet in my board. Alright, this deck is pretty sweet.